Welcome to the December 7th work session of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Robin Aki.
Here.
Councilmember Marv Bean.
Here.
Councilmember Jody Shirley.
Here.
Vice Mayor Glenn Gunn.
Here.
Mayor Joseph Manzo.
Here.
City Manager Lynn Reeves.
Here.
City Attorney Fred Riley.
Here.
And Councilmember Dave Gaddis and Councilmember Rita Swope are not present.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I called this with regard to the ongoing 6th Street and Gulf Boulevard protests. They've been going for 115 days. The city and the sheriff have thus far been unable to bring any relief to the individuals that live there. So I'm not going to read every point in the agenda, but I am going to go over it factually, and then I'm going to open it up for discussion on the floor as to what the council may wish to do about it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the facts because we each got a packet and it was published that contained most of the paperwork. But I think there are some things that are worth mentioning. This started July 22nd and it has went non-stop to Election Day. There was a few days missed because of inclement weather. And it seems like then the other days went longer to make up for it. Then it remained, we were told it was going to stop, and it resumed again on November 27th. Played the tape last time of approximately 5 minutes of what normally is an hour to an hour and a half of non-stop horn honking. It's illegal to have horns, okay, to support anything. As Robin Aki said, I love my Chihuahua, I support blue, go Green Bay Packers, it doesn't matter. Okay, this is supposed to be a quiet neighborhood, so it's illegal. It's illegal under state law, which everybody got a copy. It's illegal under city ordinance. Okay, it's #1 thing in our noise ordinance. And to boot, I found out today that it's also illegal under the county ordinances. So we got 3 legal statutes that prohibit horn honking for no good reason. A good reason is you're about to get in a crash or someone's in the road or something like that. Bad reason is I'm supportive of your cause. By the way, this has nothing to do with the cause. I voted for Donald Trump, and I had a Sheriff Gualtieri sign on my house. So if people are doing this for my benefit, preaching to the choir. I'm already on your team. But it has been going. And I gave some of the emails that people have sent around, which has some real bad misinformation. It's only one person that's complaining. It's 8 people who are complaining in 5 different families. And thanks to the social media response that happened in the past, some people are too afraid to even come forward. So it's affecting several people. Certainly if you live 50 feet away and you're having horn blowing, it's waking you up. It's creating severe emotional distress. It stopped us, no, excuse me, the way this works, okay, this is works, let me just explain this. This is a work session, and this is for the council to discuss, but we do have a part, usually as long as council agrees, where we open it up to the citizens. We don't have to, but we've always opened it up to the citizens. That will come later, okay? So, and I will ask at that point, okay? You have to keep the masks on, it's the city's rule. So, back to what I was saying. This noise, okay, doesn't go away. It stopped us from homeschooling our grandchild. It's interfering with my business. It's interfering with, there's a person who lives on the southeast corner, is ready to move. They can't sleep, okay? This is how it's affecting people, okay? It's not that people don't support the cause. If we were handing out leaflets, if we wanted to do a presentation in City Hall, Jody Shirley's sitting here saying she's gonna have a luncheon, this is all good stuff. I'm the reason why you have extra police. I'm the one who proposed that. So, we support the police, but this is creating a rift with the police. Police have asked these individuals to stop. They have not. A complaint was filed against 2 of the deputies last week who asked them nicely to stop. They filed complaints against him. This is not appropriate. They're trying to come up with an amicable solution. So now I see one of them is standing across the street in Bel Air Shore. So now we're involving another city that I happen to be in personal litigation with. That's not good, okay? Our city manager, I witnessed the day that he came out and spoke. It made a little bit of difference, but it didn't stop it. So that didn't work. We had the sheriff. We could have used the sheriff to chase after these violators who were beeping these horns. We didn't use it. Sheriff has been called multiple times, has never, to my knowledge, stopped a single car. That is not law enforcement. That's ignoring the problem. And I've stood out there and watched the sheriff as they beep right in front of him and drive away with impunity, violating our laws. Now, it may seem fun, and I'll tell you how much fun it is. Person unbeknownst to the people who are doing this asked them last week, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" Quote, "We're here pissing off the mayor." That person will testify to that for me. So, you're here pissing off the mayor. You're pissing off 8 other families. You're pissing off the police. You're pissing off the whole city. And you're also pissing away our noise ordinance. Because if the police can't enforce the noise ordinance for horn honking, you can't enforce the noise ordinance for working on Sunday. And you can't enforce it for loud music. Because if you do, some attorney is going to slap the city with an equal rights protection case. So there's a lot more at stake here than pissing off the mayor, who never, by the way, did a thing to these people. Don't even know them until they moved here. So the problem for our city, and I have been working with Fred Riley when I was allowed to, back 3 or 4 days after this started, because I kind of sensed something was wrong here. You don't protest on 6th Street where there's nothing there. There's no municipal building, there's no one there. There's houses, it's a residential area. And our city doesn't have ordinances like some cities that say you can't target protest people. You can't go outside their house and protest. So we don't have that. Other cities like Winter Park, have those codes. Some of this stuff has went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court and been authorized. So one of the, Fred Riley has given us a lot of options, but some of the stuff is adopting some type of a code that says you can't stand outside people's houses and protest. You know, you want people to beat horns outside your house? You want them to play a drum at midnight? You want to have 20 people outside your house? We're not going to stoop to that level yet. But if it has to happen and the city doesn't want to do anything, well, that might happen. We have no ordinances. We've had no enforcement for over 100 days. It's quiet before these folks come out in the morning. It's quiet when they go away. One of the sheriffs actually tried to convince me that these people may be beeping at emergencies. Well, stand there before and stand there after and see how many horns you hear honking. You'll hear none. It's not a light. There's not people falling asleep or doing anything wrong. It just happens when they're out there. I got it. The people support them. But 115 days, folks? 115 days? You know, I remember when we had the festival last year. We had a room full of people here, all targeted, all from this one particular area pretty much. And they said, well, you can't make noise. We're going to have 3 hours worth of noise in a festival. Frank Bankard says the city is a quiet, peaceful place. What are we doing having a festival? Yeah, people were going to have fun for 3 hours. Well, we had that festival, and it was so quiet that somebody said the music was so low that you couldn't hear it. That's how quiet the festival was. 3 hours was bothering Frank Bankard, but I don't see any comments now from anybody that it's bothering them. I got it if you live on the other side of town and you don't hear it, but this can be brought to anybody. I'm looking at Leslie Natero. I know you own condos on Gulf Boulevard. Would you like this? Well, Leslie Natero gets it. Leslie Natero wrote that the police should be chasing after the people who are doing the beeping. Leslie, I agree with you, 100%. Okay, that's what you posted. It's in our book. So, the purpose of tonight isn't to discuss the merits of the cause. Again, I agree with your cause. And if you were handing out leaflets or you were volunteering with the police, I'd assist you. I would introduce you to every police chief that I know. But And they could use your help, by the way. St. Petersburg, they want your help. Our sheriff wants you to stop. The citizens would like you to stop. We live there. It's quiet. I work from the house. I'm on with courts, and I have to explain why there's horns beeping in the background. I'm asking you nicely. I'm looking right at you and asking you nicely. Please stop. There's better ways to make your point. And the First Amendment is not an absolute thing. There are restrictions. You can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater. There is a limit. And if you're going to make noise for 150 days, 200 plus hours in a residential neighborhood, I think you've exceeded the limit. There's been Supreme Court case of late holding protesters liable. I don't want to go down this road. I'm asking you nicely, stop all of this. Because now our city has to react. We have to ask why the sheriff is not enforcing the law. This isn't helping anything. I'm asking you to help, to stop. I really am. My neighbor asked you to stop too. Stopped for a day, went right back, and you told her it was going to go on, quote, forever. Forever, folks. This will be our cultural attraction. So yes, Jody, I'm going to go right to you. I'm finished, basically. So I'm asking, right now I'm going to turn it over to council to see, Fred Riley has given a number of suggestions, maybe Mr. Riley wishes to speak, to see where do we go from here, what do we do next, to stop something that has been foreign to our city for so far and is disturbing the culture of our city and disturbing the city itself. There's just no place for Bel Air Beach to have this. One day, sure, I'll go out with you. 2 days, sure. 115 days, no. Jody Shirley.
Yeah, I just, in an effort to kind of move this along, I guess I'm curious what the intended outcome of this is, because I don't know how we can, as a council or a city, enforce anything. We might be able to put in a code in place similar to that in Winter Park, but that says you can't be within 50 feet of the facility that you're picketing in front of, and they're not within 50 feet of your home. You're suggesting that this is one email I got, your accusation was that this is retaliation against you in June because you filed suits against cities and council members, and if that's your feel and your intent is to move forward with something along those lines, I can't be a party of it because you've named me in that suit. So you guys have kind of drawn a line there. You say that they're trying to piss off the mayor. I don't believe that that's the case. One of your words was a beep. Well, a beep doesn't sound too offensive to me. I know at my house I have a neighbor who pressure washes 24/7, it seems like, and I go in my house and close the windows and close the doors and turn on the music so I can't hear it, and I'm okay with that. So, I don't know what we can do and what your intended outcome is. If we're moving this forward to some sort of new code, presenting a code that will eliminate it, but I don't know how we can, and we can't step on someone's civil rights. So I don't know what the purpose of this meeting is.
Well, the purpose is what I had said here. Let me correct just one or two things. First off, I'm not suing anybody in this city. Okay, that's a lawsuit from June Van Scott. Secondly, it's interesting that you got a memo that I only sent to Lynn Reeves. That was not sent to council. So I'd love to know how that got to Jody Shirley.
It was on one of your original, all of the papers that I received, an early on cover sheet said that, and it was sent to sent to every council.
Somebody sent it to council. I sent that to Lynn Reeves. But anyway, that aside, what are we trying to accomplish? Okay, first of all, it's not a beep. I played the tape. If you'd like, I will play the tape.
That was your words. I'm not.
Okay, when I say a beep, I'm talking about horn honks. If you like, I've got 5 minutes of a serenade of horns. We played it last time. I think everybody got tired of it after 2 minutes. We've been going through 150 hours of it. So it's not funny, okay? Some people think it's funny, but it's not funny, okay? And you may very well wind up being liable. It's not funny, okay? So it's very serious. And what are we going to do as a council? Well, we've got a couple things working over here. The response or lack thereof of the police is something that we have to talk about, I think. Number two is, what do we do as a council? The City of Winter Park ordinance talks about targeted protesting. I can't get the police to come out and deal with cars that are beeping horns in the middle of a road, let alone trying to explain to them targeted protesting, which must be about 150 pages of legal documents that have been collected so far. That's not going to work, okay? The case, and Fred Riley found this case, so I'm going to give him full credit. It's called Frisbee versus Schultz. It went to the U.S. Supreme Court. That's the case to use. It basically says you can't protest within 50 feet of a person's house, period. That's it. It's already been approved. It's Brookline, Wisconsin. They're still using it. I pulled up their Muni code the other day, and we can put something similar. And that stops people from being in front of anyone's house having a protest. Right now it's funny because it's the mayor, but next time it's not going to be the mayor, it's going to be somebody else. It could be a doctor, it could be a lawyer, it could be anybody in the city, it could be a plumber, it could be anyone in the city who's getting a protest in front of their house. I mean, how long is too much, okay? 115 days, an hour a day. What I told you, and I have never lied to this council or to this city, is a direct quote from my neighbor. They're willing to swear, they're willing to come in and appear in court for me. So that's the strength of that. I was not there, I was in the area when it happened. So take it for what it's worth, okay? There's plenty of other documents, I'm not going to go through them tonight, about posts that were made by one of the protesters. So I've got the information, okay? I'm trying to come up with an amicable solution, as were the police that got the complaints filed against them. So tonight, the question is as a city, our noise ordinance is not being enforced, folks. Okay? That sits well with everybody, and we can go home and catch Monday Night Football, okay? If the police have refused to enforce it, I disagree with Vice Mayor Gunn. So where do we go? That's the question.
Well, I know for a fact that the police do enforce loud, reoccurring horn honking, because my daughter got pulled over when her car had a faulty issue and the horn was sounding, and she got pulled over. It was more to make sure she was okay, but it was loud and obnoxious and they pulled her over. Very easy to track whose car it was. I can see, you know, if I'm going down the street and I toot the horn and I get pulled over, it's my right to toot the horn. I mean, that is, there's no, I believe this code that we have in here has it's referencing it says unnecessary excessive use of the horn. And I don't think a tap on the horn is an unnecessary excessive.
You're making me play the tape, right? I mean, it was not a tap on the horn. There's air horns that you could hear down the block, okay? And then there's guys.
My point is, I don't know how we can overcome this, is my point. I don't know that, and then the other reasons that I just stated, I don't know how I can be part of this meeting, because even if we come up with a solution, it's been brought in front of us that, you know, this is retaliation. Well, you know, if it's all about the lawsuit and retaliation, I can't even be sitting here. I probably need to excuse myself right now.
Anyone else?
To me, if I can talk.
Yes, sure. It's a work session.
I think we can all agree that the cause, what they're supporting, is not the issue. Like I said, if they're supporting their love of Chihuahuas, then that's fine too. So that aside, because everyone keeps bringing that up, that, oh, I support the police, it's not that. So we all support the police. I think the issue is the longevity and the permanence of the location. Now, I've had heard in the past that was because the couple was elderly and was close to their house and it was difficult for them to walk farther to the other side of the block. And I said, well, you know, being in a position, I can counteract that, because if they can walk 3 houses to the block, they can walk into their driveway, into the car, to another location, get out, and probably walk less. I don't understand why this is going on so long. I'll be honest, I mean, if this was done in front of my house for this long, I would be annoyed as well. Whether I was home or not, just my neighbors. I'd be annoyed for my neighbors at our home that don't work. I don't know how to solve this. I don't think pushing the sheriffs to pull over every car that did 2 beeps, because technically excessive. Now, if they were going down 3 blocks holding their horn, to me, that's excessive. A little beep beep to support is not excessive, so I see both sides. So I think the main bottom line, and maybe it's something we need to work on and come to a middle point for both parties, is why there and only there, and at those times. And can we do something like, I think in the past we said, okay, well, you're not allowed to park on the street. Can we give them a special one day a week, you were allowed to park on whatever street you want for an hour to support your cause. And of course, if anybody else wants to do the same thing, then we'd have to grant them that right. And then that could become a problem if 50 different causes are happening. But I guess I'd like to hear why from the party and find out what, and why now? Why suddenly now? And why can't your time, which I appreciate you're putting the time into this cause, but maybe that your time could be used in a more constructive manner, supporting the police, like volunteering or helping or going to other areas. I remember during the election, there was on Seminole and East Bay, there was people out there with signs, and you get way more traffic there to get your point across, and you get way more horns, and there's not residential right there. And I'm pretty sure they're used to horn honking, so they're probably not gonna complain if there are. So I guess my bottom line is the underlying cause the retaliation? I'm not saying it is. I mean, is that it? If that's, and I'm not saying that's the case. I don't know, because I'm not them. If that's the case, then, dude, we have other issues we gotta work on. I mean, and then I'm gonna go back to my quotes from past, like, now we're getting into grade school kind of behavior here with retaliation, so I'm not gonna be down with that. But I wanna know the why. I'm not on anyone's side. I just wanna know the basic facts and the why. If this is going on so long, and why we haven't been able to come to a resolution amicably.
Robin, let me give you 2 pieces of information, because Jody Shirley, unintentionally, I'm sure, misstated the law, okay? The state law says you're not to use your, and I've given you a copy of this, you're not to use your horn other than to sound for a warning to other motorists. It's not okay, believe it or not, to just give 2 taps of the horn to your neighbor. These people aren't given 2 taps, they're given 5, 10 taps, they're leaning on the horn from 6th Street to 7th Street and beyond sometimes. So that's the first thing, and it's never allowable. It's not allowable under the county code, it's not allowable under our code. If anybody thought it was allowable, I have a First Amendment right to beep horns. Well, you do. You gotta do it up in Portland. Now, we all have seen what's going on up in Portland, okay? It's lawlessness. But Portland, you're allowed to beep horns. They don't care. However, in Pinellas County, the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals has ruled on this very issue. 2 police actually did give tickets to protesters, not to the protesters, to 2 cars supporting a protester. And it went to all the way up to the appellate division, and their argument, the people who beat the horns argument was, we got First Amendment right, we were supporting them. Judge said, no, you don't. You don't have that right, because the state law prohibits it. Forget about our law, you don't even need ours. Use the state law. It's prohibited. So you're not allowed to do it, okay? And what happened? They got fined, okay? So, and it's not like there's thousands of cars coming by. There's times that there's only 1 car coming by. So there's no question who made the beep, who made the horn bang, and there's no one in front of you, there's no accident imminent or anything like that. Again, if you come out, they start usually around 9 o'clock. If you come in at 8:45, you can hear the birds chirping. Then all hell breaks loose for an hour to an hour 15 minutes, and then it quiets down again for the rest of the day. Once in a great while, you might get a horn because somebody's maybe not paying attention in the crosswalk or something, but other than that, there's not much. It's quiet, even though it's Gulf Boulevard. So, that's the situation. And I'm repeating again what was said. So, yeah, I would like to know the why too, because I never knew these people until this thing started. I never did anything to them, and if I did do something to you, my telephone number is on the city website. Call me and tell me what I did to you. I'll be happy to call you. I'm a reasonable person. But when you disrupt our lives and torture us for 150 days, I have to take action if I have to make it stop. This cannot be a permanent part of Bel Air culture. Mark Beam.
Well, supporting the police is fine. We supported the sheriff until he got elected. and maybe a couple days after. But at this point, everybody loses. The sheriff loses, because he's in the middle of the position. Every one of us on this council lose, because it's a very hard decision to make. So the situation is forcing us to do something. But in the end, everybody loses. Why carry it this far, 115 days or 150 days, or even 50 days? Makes no sense. I support the police, but we've got to do it in a manner that is fair to everybody. This is not fair to the city, it's not fair to the residents, it's not fair to Lynn Reeves, it's not fair to the attorney, it's not fair to anybody. Any of the residents sitting here, it's not fair for them to go through this. So there's points, Mayor, you made that are very strong. They're within the law. I understand your position. But I do feel sorry for the horn honking. The only thing I'm going to say now is if we have to do something, how is this Winter Park Code going to help us out? And I'd like to hear from Fred.
And Fred, if I could just add on to that, consider also the Frisbee, because what I had said, I think Frisbee is more beneficial to us in our situation. But go ahead.
Months ago, when this all arose, I was looked at how can you solve the problem. One of the things that became obvious to me immediately is that the city does not have a code provision that relates to targeted protests, so that wasn't available. I researched it further and found the code provision that Mayor Manzo's referenced in Winter Park, and basically what was happening in Winter Park that led to them putting in an ordinance is that doctors were being protested against due to the type of their medical practice. And there was a concentration of doctors, and the city put in this, and it was a very well-written ordinance that put in reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions related to somebody exercising their constitutional rights. The case that has been referenced further evaluated that ordinance and determined that those reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions were in fact constitutional. So for purposes of considering a measure that could be taken here, that is a good example, because you have a shining example that has already passed constitutional muster. So from the standpoint of should you consider something like that, I think it is something that you should consider, because you have some certainty if you go through the steps to put that in place.
Robin, I also wanted to just give you something I forgot to, also a piece of information, okay? This suggestion that the individuals are infirmed, okay? I've had a long time to watch their actions. And I was out there last Sunday, waiting actually for the police to come, and they never came. I wanted to speak with them, but afterward, the lady came over to me and confronted me. Now, I was standing about 100 feet away on private property. She came up to me, spoke with me, not too nicely, but spoke with me. Started off the conversation with, "What's your problem?" which is the way we pick fights in New Jersey, where I come from, so that's the way it started. Luckily, there was no fights. I kept my cool, and she and her husband proceeded to walk all the way down my block, some 8 or 10 houses, so probably 600 feet, 700 feet, turned around, walked all the way back, walked all the way back Gulf Boulevard, and went back to their houses on 6th Street. Now, I do note that Mr. Purcell, a little bit slower, okay? He's 78, but I hope I do as well when I'm 78 as you folks are doing. Mrs. Purcell, I don't know if I can make it down the block as well as she did, okay? Very good health. And now she's across the street doing this in Bel Air Shore, further complicating an already messy situation. And I saw the city clerk from Bel Air Shore visiting her on Sunday. Folks, we're watching, and all of this stuff is going to be coming out. So, go ahead, Robin.
First off, I wasn't saying they were infirm, this is just what was told to me at one of our virtual work sessions when this was brought up, and so that,
Yeah, no, that's correct. That was told to us. That was suggested.
I had never met you guys, so I have no idea, sorry. Hello. So what I totally agree with Marv Bean. I mean, there's no winner. I mean, if you think about your actions, not just the support for the sheriff, and if anything, I don't think it actually does, if you look at it, support the sheriff, because now they're using more resources or more time on this issue, maybe trying to stop drivers from honking instead of stopping the driver from speeding, which is more of a detriment to our city, so, and it puts them in a bad situation because they're over here dealing with this, when maybe they should be stopping the guy who's looking at breaking into the house over there. So I don't think it's helping the police. We talk about all the time, since I got on this council, the premier community, the premier community, the premier community, Bel Air Beach, a quiet community. This doesn't seem to me like a premier, quiet community with all of this ruckus going on. If we do get the sheriffs to start pulling over people for honking, think about how that's gonna make you feel that your supporters are now getting ticketed. They're not gonna be too happy with you or the cause, and maybe they're going to negatively associate that with support the blue. Not only that, but we always are talking about finances in this city, and we always try to pinch every penny because we don't have as many pennies as we like. So think about the amount of money this issue has been costing the city, with Fred Riley having to research this, with having to speak to the manager, having to speak to the people in question. So if this is truly, and again, I don't know, a targeted protest, I would say this isn't benefiting anybody, not the police, not the city, not our coffers, nothing. So it seems like this is more of a personal gain, and again, I don't know you, so I don't know if it is, I'm just making my observation from being a listener. But I will tell you that if I go to your house 9 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, hell, even 2 o'clock at night, and honk my horn for an hour, I'm pretty sure you would probably not be a big fan of me at that time. So I'm just saying, take that into consideration. In my life, and I tell my kids, you know, if you're thinking about doing something to mean to someone, think about how you'd feel if it was done to you first. And I'm just saying, put it, you know, I used to work the night shift, so I understand the noise. So if somebody comes over to your house and honks all night, or just for an hour and 15 minutes every day for 115 days while you're trying to sleep, you probably wouldn't be happy. So I'm just saying, when we do these actions, and not just this, just in the world in general, let's start thinking about how it affects other people, and if it's a negative effect, then maybe we should rethink about what our motives are. That's it, that's my mom talk for the night, sorry.
Hang on one second, I'm gonna see if, yes, give me 1 second. I have to first get permission of council before I open it up to the floor. Give me 1 minute, okay? What's that? I understand. I have to get permission of council. The citizens don't normally have an opportunity to speak. I recognize you. Let me get permission, and then you'll be heard. When you speak, you're going to come up here and speak into the mic. You're going to give your name and address, okay? Council, do we have, Mark, did you want to have something to say? And then we'll see if we want to open it up here.
Just one thing I want to ask, Lynn, do you have any idea what the cost, total cost has been? Just rough around the corner.
No, I can tell you that there's been numerous police calls by Ms. Vanskoy and the mayor to the sheriff.
And other individuals.
The timeframes on that, I don't have all the police reports on that. I can ask the sheriff for them. I know Fred spent time on it, I've spent time on it. You know, it's, you know.
Well, you're talking not only money, but valuable time that both of you and everybody else needs to put their energy elsewhere, not just with this continuing saga going on. just totally doesn't make any sense. I don't get it.
Marv, when you want to talk about time, money, that's professional time. Mr. Purcell used to be a doctor. I came home from the hospital. I had a very serious procedure. I was recovering in my bed, and you all woke me up that morning.
What morning was
Okay? I will tell you the day. I don't have it with me, okay? It was in September. So, you woke me up, okay? You're a doctor. Do no harm. Counsel, I think at this point, before we go to what we might want to do, there may be people in the audience that wish to speak, and perhaps they can maybe even stop this, depending on if we've impressed anything to anyone. So I'm going to ask if it's okay to open up the floor for comments. Mr. Riley?
Before you do that, I would like to say a few things.
Absolutely. But can I just, do we have that okay once Mr. Riley finishes? Yes? Okay, we have consensus. Go ahead, Mr. Riley.
It's
have-
okay if you don't go up there and speak.
Pardon?
It's okay to speak from your chair.
Okay, Mr. Purcell, you can't interrupt us, okay? This is a formal session. If you want to speak, I talked about the decorum. We don't scream from the seats. Mr. Riley, I'm sorry.
I'm following the decorum, and the decorum I followed at this work session is to sit here patiently and give all the members of the council an opportunity to discuss this, and I've answered a question that council member Beam asked me. I don't want to preempt Vice Mayor Gunn, so if he wanted to say some things, I will gladly wait till he's made some comments, but there are several comments I would like to make.
I'll save my comments for after.
You'll save them for after? Okay, so go ahead, Mr. Riley, you have the floor.
Great.
And folks, this is a work session. I know this is kind of formal tonight, but this is a work session, so we speak up, okay? Go
I'm
ahead.
being formal because I am going to be exceptionally deliberate in what I do. I have worked on trying to solve this problem for months. I have done everything that in my capacity as a city attorney, I could do to try and solve this problem. I have, last couple weeks, spent considerable time on trying to solve the problem. Last week, I spoke with the general counsel from the sheriff's department, and I sent this, after that discussion with her, sent a email to the city council members that explained the general counsel's position on the issue, and her position in a nutshell is that they take the position that the sheriff's department is, one, properly enforcing the law, and two, they are complying with the terms of the contract with the city. That's their position. If you want a suggestion from me about a specific action that you can take, it is consider a Winter Park style ordinance. Having said that, under constitutional law, a sidewalk is a public forum, and a citizen has a constitutional right to stand in a public forum and hold a sign. Okay? So there's plenty of cases that relate to time, place, and manner restrictions on somebody's constitutional rights. And one of the things that I have never been in favor of in the time that I've served in my capacity as city attorney for this city is putting you in a position so that you become a great test case in federal court where you spend an inordinate amount of money defending anything. This is a city that should not, if we can help it, be in those types of situations. And I have gone to great lengths, whether anybody in this room believes it or not, to try and make sure we are not in that position. Okay? So having said that, I will come back to something that Mayor Manzo stated, and several of you have said a version of it, and that is that there needs to be an amicable solution to this problem. And an amicable solution is easy. It's called reasonable people acting in a reasonable manner to solve a problem. And, Dr. Aki referenced being back in grade school. We're not in grade school. We're in citizens of a community. I live in a, little less desirable community across the bridge called Bel Air. So every time I come over the bridge, I look at this beautiful city that have the honor to be the city attorney for, and what a fantastic slice of paradise that you have here. And my suggestion is similar to what the mayor has suggested, and two of the council members, and Vice Mayor Gunn hasn't spoken yet, but I feel confident he would have the same sentiment, that this is a time where the appropriate thing is for reasonable people to do reasonable things to solve a problem. And if that doesn't work, then my suggestion to you as a council is to consider a Winter Park type ordinance and go through the steps to put it in place and then enforce it. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Any other council comments before I open it up to the citizens?
I just want to say thank you to Fred for all he does for our city and keeping us out of trouble and representing us with definitely respect and grace. I appreciate it.
I will second it and third it. Fred Riley has spent an unbelievable amount of time. And to tell you the character of this guy, okay, this attorney, who I admire, and I don't admire a lot of attorneys, but I admire you. This guy has spent a ton of time, and you will never see it on his billing statement. He has called me on Sunday mornings. We have been discussing this thing since 2 or 3 days after it started, because I kind of sensed there was something not right here. And he and I have been discussing it, and we have been, when we were able to work together, we were working together, giving each other cases and information, and trying to help each other with the research and stuff. Fred, no one could have said it better. Reasonable people acting in a reasonable manner. It's Christmas time. Trying to get work done. I just became a grandfather. I haven't even had a chance to talk to my daughter because I've been spending every night doing legal research on this topic. I'm not doing that for necessarily the city, folks. So please, let's straighten this thing out now before it escalates into something that no one's going to like. Everyone loses, Mark Beam said. I'm going to open it up to the citizens. Mr. Purcell, you have your hands up. Now, it's 3 minutes. You come here and you speak.
I will speak from here.
No, you can't. No, we can't hear you, and you have to be up here, so that's what it's going to be. Or you can speak, well, I don't want, Robin, you can move? Okay, you can speak over here. Speak at that mic. You can even sit here, Robin. Yeah, there you go.
I can actually walk up.
Speak right into the mic. These things are very unsensitive, so you have to be like an inch away.
Okay, first of all,
Okay, your name first and address.
Beth Purcell. I object to being called a protester. I'm not objecting to anything. We are supporting the law enforcement officers. And retaliation was mentioned. What do we have to retaliate for? The only person that's been harassing is the mayor, who sent police officers to our home.
Mr. Purcell, I'm going to stop you right now.
Would you allow her to speak?
No, I'm not,
Let her speak.
because she's personally attacking me.
I'm speaking.
You let her speak, or you're not gonna have a quorum for this meeting.
And I'll use the sheriff to pull you back in, Mr. Gunn. Go ahead.
Let's do it right
Go
now.
ahead.
You
You're
sent two
grandstanding,
This is
Mr.
a
Gunn.
personal.
This is why you're getting
This is a
sued.
personal
You guys,
issue.
come
This is
on.
why you're getting sued.
Guys, calm down.
Walk out. Go ahead.
You
Joe.
just
Go ahead.
being sued?
Joe,
You can't speak
Glenn,
about
just
this.
stop, both of you. This is ridiculous.
I didn't say a word to her to
Joe.
insult her.
Joe, stop. I'm not gonna stand for this, stop.
Come on, guys.
You guys, come on.
My kids act
I didn't send
better.
anyone to your
Calm down.
house, now speak.
Let her speak or
Into the mic.
Sheriff's officers who said they would have to start fining us daily for having political signs in our yard. You come out when we're on the street with your camera, get within 3 or 4 feet of us, stick it in our face, take pictures of us, sit up on your balcony, take pictures of us all day. You're not working.
I am
You're
working, Mrs.
tormenting
Purcell.
us.
Wait, just let her talk.
You're not working with a camera standing out on the street corner. And we're there for 1 hour a day. It's not constant honking. And no one has complained to us, well, maybe 3 people at the most, the whole time we've been out there. Mostly we get support from people. You have never come out to speak to us. You just huff and puff past us, taking pictures and saying, I have every right to be out here. It's a public sidewalk. So you haven't tried to solve anything.
Are you done speaking? Just-
Sure.
Okay. Well, first off, I just want to, I'm a referee for a second. I just want to say that I think Fred can back me up. Technically, you're not supposed to address anybody directly while you're giving your 3 minutes. So that's why he was trying to stop you. But I think we let you because this is a different kind of issue and we need to find the facts and the why. So just for future, if you ever come to another meeting, you can't directly talk to somebody, accusatory or not, you have to talk to the council as a whole. So that's why he was interrupting you, just so you know, because those are the rules and usually we cut you off, but I want to know the why. That's all.
We haven't heard the why. We heard accusations against me. I was 100 feet away from you. I have a 300 millimeter telephoto lens. I don't have to get by you. I did try to walk by you the other day. You did not move from the sidewalk. I walked by you. I went to the next corner and took more pictures. I can't even take pictures from 3 feet away with the lens that I have. It won't focus. Why am I doing it? And you're saying I'm not working? I'm an attorney. Figure out why I'm doing it. Think. Protester liability, okay? We're asking you nicely to stop, okay? If you don't want to do it nicely, then you're leaving me little choice than to have to take it to a court. Is that what you want to spend your money on? I'll do it.
Is this a work session involving the city, or are we talking?
She asked a question.
Is this now personal?
She asked a question, I'm answering her question.
Okay, so let's keep this on track then.
Okay, just please don't call me a protester.
I will not call you a protester, but I will tell you this. You have a lot of nerve to say I said the...
Let's stop it there.
Okay.
No
Let me
personal
say for the
attacks.
record, I didn't send anybody to anyone's house. The complaint, and this is recorded, by the way, so please, by all means, the day that the officers came to your house, I believe was the day after Thanksgiving, I think that's the 27th, I don't know, I don't have a calendar in front of me. Make a public records request, go to and get the taped recording, because the police record every call that goes into them. I complained about the horn honking. In fact, I think you will hear on that tape that I said the protesters, okay, were not breaking any law that I know of. But I said the problem was the people beeping back, the horn honking beeping back, okay? And in that day, I believe it was only Mr. Purcell outside, there were signs in the right-of-way, not your house. I haven't been by your house in probably at least 3 weeks, okay? And that was only because I was making a U-turn and I went down 5th Street. So I don't know what you have in front of your house. You used to have some campaign signs. I don't care. Mrs. Purcell, I was the person on this council that said not to enforce the sign ordinance. So I certainly did not send the police to your house to enforce it when I told our city manager here and our city attorney we should not be enforcing it. It had nothing to do with you. It had a different issue. There was a campaign sign that was confiscated and we thought it shouldn't have been. So we actually were in the process of reworking our sign ordinance. So to post on social media that I did that is flat out wrong. Maybe you were misinformed. I'm not going to say it's a lie, but that's misinformation. I didn't send the police to your house, and I didn't tell them to take any signs. If they took signs out of your front yard, they should be put back. You can put any sign you want in your front yard, but you can't put it on the right-of-way, because then people can't see when they pull out of the street. That's my concern. I'm the mayor of the city, I'm concerned about safety. I'm asking you, person to person, to please stop. I will hook you up with the police chief of St. Petersburg. We have a family relative who works there. They really, really need your help. They're getting defunded. We funded the police with a record amount of money. I funded them. I ran on a campaign to increase the police. And tonight you heard us talking with the city manager, increasing police. That was my initiative, and I thankfully was backed by my council. So don't say I don't support the police. And we posted pictures of me at the Fallen Officers Memorial and everything else that I went to. I don't have to go to that stuff. I went because I honor and respect law enforcement. So it's very disruptive. June Van Scoy, who lives with me, was going to homeschool her grandchild. Her father is a policeman. We had to not do it because we couldn't concentrate. So that's my situation. I'm hoping you'll hear me and my sincerity. I totally support that. But when I heard from my neighbor what you said, I started thinking otherwise.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
said that.
I'm sorry? Did you say that?
I said I doubt it, but
You doubt it.
nothing's impossible.
Okay.
Now, is there a way we can, is there a way we can find a middle ground? Could you spread your message around the city in other areas?
I never said you didn't support the police, ever.
Mrs. Purcell, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Can you speak, please speak right into the mic.
Everywhere. We're supporting law enforcement, okay? Not necessarily your city alone, every city.
Okay. I understand that. But you're on 6th Street in Bel Air Beach. Your message isn't getting out to every city. It's
We've
getting out to
gotta
the
have
easement
people-
across the street.
May I see your complaints, all these
Can
complaints you say
I
you
make
have?
another comment?
Please.
The purpose of this is a work session, is to discuss how to solve a problem. And the point, counterpoint, and all that is, I think, to some degree necessary in order for everybody in the room to understand what is the situation and get some understanding of the position of the various people. I think it's clear to me what the position of the various people is, and from my position, I again will say, reasonable people, and I should have said people of goodwill, will act in a reasonable manner to find a way to resolve problems. I will say to you and your husband, you two have the constitutional right to stand on that sidewalk and hold a sign, okay? And I, like everybody that is a elected official, I'm not an elected official, I'm their lawyer, but I swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. Every one of them did the same when they took the oath of office. Just because you have the constitutional right to do something doesn't mean it's the appropriate thing to do. It's been disruptive, and I'm just making.
I'm not sure it's disruptive.
May I complete my comments?
Well, please,
Okay, may I answer you?
Well,
Don't interrupt.
I'm not debating anybody. I'm saying, as a city attorney for this city, I'm advising my client, and I'm responding to several of the things I heard. People of goodwill and reasonable people will solve a problem in a reasonable manner, and that, to me, is the best course of action that you as a council can take. If that route does not work, then I highly recommend that the council instruct me to draft the ordinance that's similar to what they have in Winter Park, and then once that's on the books, we can go through the steps of trying to enforce that. Those are the best two solutions
Yes.
I have, and to be quite honest with you, going back and forth with recriminations about things is to me counterproductive for everybody. And I'm
Yeah, I
you
agree.
know,
I'm
I try to
innocent
limit
of
what I
this.
say because I'm the lawyer and I'm supposed to wait till the council calls on me, but there's some times where I have to step in, and this is one of them. You have your constitutional rights, The mayor has stated why this has been a long saga for him and others. And again, I'm hopeful that reasonable people will find a reasonable solution, and that will be the end of it. That's my hope.
I would like to say one thing.
Go ahead.
You keep saying that this is a big problem. This is news to us. We've gotten nothing but support. The only complaints we get regularly are from the mayor and his girlfriend. That's it. None of the other neighbors have complained. They support us. It's always, don't give up, don't quit. We appreciate it. So somebody,
Mrs. Purcell, I'm going to ask you to return to your seat. The 3 minutes is passed up. Okay, I have laid out that there were 8 families affected. Ben Corwin, my neighbor across the street, complained. The 2 people who live at 605 complained. That would be the lady, one of them being the lady that you told that you were there to piss off the mayor. Last Friday, or Thursday, I believe, last Thursday, your neighbors, 2 houses down, Lori, I don't know her last name, I just know her as Lori, came to see you, okay, and asked you about what was going on, and she complained, okay? We have complained numerous times. So to sit there and say it's not bothering anybody, you know, if it were me, okay, and I was bothering even one neighbor, it would be enough for me to cease and desist, okay? I just would say, oh my God, I don't believe it. If I was playing my guitar too loud one night and my neighbor said, you know, Joe, I'm hearing you, I'd say, oh my God, I'm sorry, I'll crank it down. I wouldn't go out and keep doing it, okay? And that leads to the whole, why is this happening? And we never did get an answer why it was happening. It's affecting a lot of people, and other people are scared. And again, there's several hundred pages of posts on social media, all of which Ms. Van Scoy has, okay? They're not subject to public record, she has them, okay? This is a problem. There's a lot of attack. One of the things I put in this book was somebody who said they were going to come and break into my house. They were going to come and break into my house until I changed my mind on the police. Well, that's
Not what that said.
Was that?
The statement was referred to if somebody breaks.
No, it said when. Read it again, Mr.
Yes,
Dunn.
exactly.
Is
My
this the second time
interpretation of that
or what?
statement was,
Yeah.
you're gonna wish you had the
When?
police when somebody breaks into your
When,
place.
okay? And again, I supported the police, so I don't have to justify it to anyone. Ms. Purcell, thank you for your comments. We asked you nicely, okay? And obviously, we've kind of tried to give you your opinion. I have another gentleman in the back, so please, back to the seat here. Sir, please just give us your name and address when you sit down.
Hi, everybody, I'm Roger Mall, I live at 115 Causeway.
Roger, you're gonna have to get that a lot closer because I can't hear you.
I'm Roger Mall, I
There you
live at
go.
115 Causeway, just across the street. I think I may have a solution to this, because I agree with the attorney, when I was in law school, the first thing that they say is you try to determine problems from a reasonable standpoint. And it appears that you obviously have felt threatened because this is going on for a long time, and well, I don't know what the issues are. And so what I might suggest is that it would seem to me that anybody in this room, if somebody is getting their free speech criteria in order to communication with somebody, they have a right to do that, but at some point it becomes a nuisance, it can become harassment, and then it goes into assault because they feel threatened, and at that point the constitutionality of it isn't allowed anymore, if I'm not mistaken, as soon as you cross the line and you're threatening somebody. And so where is that point? I would say if you're in protesting for 5 days, maybe 7 days, it would still look like it's a protest. But if it's 15 days or 20 days, I would say you would start to feel harassed. And so I could see an ordinance that would say any protest that lasts for more than 5 days, 7 days, it will be looked on as assault or whatever the legal terminology is. And then whatever punishment that would be allowed under the law, say that will be the criteria. So that way, at least you allow people to have their constitutional say, but you also give comfort to those who are in a position where they're going to be criticized for no matter what they do. And quite frankly, everybody in this body is probably in that position, and so nobody likes to be criticized, but to have it done for weeks and weeks and weeks, I know I'd feel threatened, and I would be afraid to go out of the house. And so it's just too bad that it's gone this far. And I know whatever pain that whoever this party is, I don't know the party, but that she obviously has an issue where she felt that she had to protest, but quite frankly, 115 days, I'd feel pretty threatened. But so I would back off, but it appears that he obviously knows your stance because we've been battling it back. So that would be my suggestion, is look at an ordinance that allows a certain period of time to protest and then figure out a penalty for being assaulting.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. June Van Scott.
June Van Scoy, 7th Street, Bel Air Beach. I talked to Ms. Purcell a long time ago, several months ago. Can everybody hear me? I want to make sure.
Go a
Okay.
little closer to the.
All right. Several months ago, and I went over to her and talked to her about this protest. And I told her, I said, why don't you move it around the city? Keep it fresh. You could move it from corner to corner and maybe get more residents involved and get more people supporting the cause. And I told her, I said, my uncle's a former assistant chief of police for the city of Orlando. I have officers in my family that work for St. Pete PD. I have a cop in my family that works for Seattle. Okay, so I totally support the police. And I asked her, I said, why not move it from street to street within the city? Well, I would have to get permission from the city hall. I said, well, what you could do is you could call there or write an email to the city clerk for a month's worth. On the 1st, I'll be on 1st Street. On the 2nd, I'll be on 2nd Street. On the 3rd, I'll be on 3rd Street. So if you gave a 30-day window to the city clerk, you would also get your permit at the same time for parking on the street. Her words to me were, that's not convenient. I said, well, what about moving up to the light? There's Crossman Park, it's across the street. The house next to it is vacant. The house on the corner is vacant. It's not convenient. I said, well, what about moving in front of City Hall? It's not convenient. What about moving at the marina? It's not convenient. So I ask you, that being said, what's not convenient? Okay? The other thing, okay? I have witnessed, and you heard me say it earlier, someone almost got hit in the crosswalk. Now last year, somebody died several cities away in a crosswalk. Do we have to have somebody die before this happens? That they're protesting and possibly distracting drivers right by a crosswalk. Coupled with the fact that I've heard several times people saying F you to them, yelling out of their cars because they don't support the cause, okay? And just 2 days ago, because they were blocking the sidewalk totally, her husband was, okay? I personally witnessed a gentleman have to walk up somebody's lawn and go around him, and you know what he said? Troublemaker, that's what he said to the guy, said to him. So I ask you, what is the cause here? What are they truly supporting? Okay? Let's come to a solution, a peaceful one, but let's come to a solution. Thank you.
Thank you. John Hanzig. Ms. Purcell, you get to speak once, so if your husband wishes to speak, that would be
It's not
fine.
true.
As God is my witness, strike me dead.
Okay, ma'am, listen, we're not gonna have this. This, I think, is typical of what we're going through. You're screaming in the middle of a council session. I asked you to stop before, please.
Don't impugn us then. That's not the truth. I can respond to that.
Ma'am, you cannot respond to it. And if you respond it again, you're gonna be responding from outside in the hall.
That's fine.
Mr. Hanzig, go ahead.
John Hanzig, 22nd Street, Bel Air Beach. I just listened to this from the last speaker, all of these suggestions Whether they're true or not, I don't know, I wasn't there. Nothing's convenient, so it's not just them standing on a sidewalk with a poster supporting law enforcement. I support law enforcement. I thank officers every single day. I thank firefighters and other first responders because they are our first line of defense given this global war on terrorism. I've gone in harm's way. I signed contracts and gave an oath to lay down my life for this country. And to a point, the First Amendment does protect us until it doesn't. And as I mentioned to somebody on the city council in a recent phone conversation, you don't have the right to yell fire in a crowded theater. Let's just say hypothetically here, that's not hypothetical, but a few weeks ago, I was at Gulf and Causeway, waiting to make a left turn. And I had to stop short in the left turn lane because some idiot blew the red light and came over into my lane. I couldn't go to the right because there was somebody beside me. There was a car turning right off the causeway on the Gulf. Hypothetically, a deputy could have been citing somebody for improper use of emergency sounding device, i.e. horn. You'd had a multiple car wreck and a citizen dead right there. Enough's enough. I think that the point's been made, but what I'm hearing tonight, certain parties are unwilling to budge, and I have to concur, Mr. Riley. If we can't come to an amicable agreement, then by golly, the city council needs to approve the drafting of an ordinance for protests or whatever else you want to call it, because enough's enough. I've seen too many situations. Just Sunday when the power went out over here, wife and I go to breakfast. We're coming down, back up Gulf from Clearwater Beach. I'm doing the speed limit of 35 miles an hour and some bloody idiot in a Beamer passes me in a turn lane. And I'm tired of counting the number of times I see people pass in the turn lane at Gulf and 22nd. Somebody is going to get hurt, if not killed. One last point. Shall and we is non-negotiable. Shall and will. It means you will do it. But unfortunately, this contract in the next sentence for the sheriff's department gives them discretion. Well, I've got a suggestion for your discretion. Your discretion should be at minimum, write a warning if you're not willing to write a ticket. I've
Mayor,
said this for years about speeding too,
that's
but
time.
we're still here.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Is there anyone who hasn't spoke from the citizens? No one else wishes to be heard? We'll bring it back. I'm sorry, lady in the back. Yes.
I'm Debbie Mull, and I live at 115 Causeway. I'm just appalled by this thing. This is ridiculous. As a citizen of this city and as a taxpayer in this city, Mr. Reeves stated that we are paying the police $55 an hour times 2 an hour. To deal with this, we're paying our attorney, I would guess $300 an hour or more. I'm very upset about this. This is ridiculous. I never really felt, did I just give you a raise? I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm just telling you what I pay my attorney.
It's a well-deserved one.
Yeah, okay. I would agree.
That's not binding, by the way. Go ahead.
But my biggest concern is that I just think that there's got to be something else behind this because it's gone to the point of being ridiculous. And I would like to see this thing resolved in just a decent manner. I can tell you when I go to the beach in Bel Air Shore on the beach, on public beach, and you guys harass me for
having an umbrella or not, not being what you guys determine at that point is the mean high tide line, but you will not go after someone who is creating a noise ordinance in our city. That's a real discrimination issue in my book. I have a real issue with that one, but that's for another day. So my point here is that we just need to resolve this thing. We do not need to spend another dime on this. We need to put something in play and resolve it, because this is really junior high behavior, and it needs to end. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mall. Mr. Shaw?
Rick Shock, 115 13th Street. Just to echo what Mrs. Mall said, I don't know whether to laugh or cry. To me, this is so in an elementary way, so simple. I don't know why we haven't resolved it. Listening to this and the fingers being pointed, clearly we have residents who have a right to support an organization that they strongly support, but by the same token, for the extended period of time, clearly they're disturbing people, and I don't think there's one person in this room that could stand up and say that if this happened in front of their house every day, unless they were part of it and they were normally up, that they would be okay with it. So I have a right to sit in my backyard and talk. If I'm talking loud and my neighbors say, hey Rick, could you keep it down a little bit, we're trying to sleep, I would say yes. I'm sorry, and go on about my business. I mean, this is just like something my mother would say to me. You know, respect other people so that we all can have a nice quality of life. My God, we live in this wonderful little city, and I can't believe this is going on. So I don't know these people from Adam, but if I interpret what's happened here, you've been asked by a resident representing himself and others to please stop the consistent noise, and you basically have said no. So I guess that's where we are. The ball is in your court. If you were the two, I don't know who's there every morning, but you have to leave here and make a decision either to continue to annoy people, even though you may have the right, or you think you would just like to do what would be neighborly. So I guess the ball's in your court. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Any other citizens wish to be heard? We'll bring it back to the council. I got you, Mr. Gunn. Actually, you know what, go ahead. I've spoken quite a bit.
I don't think the Winter Park ordinance will solve this.
Mr. Gunn, please just speak right to the mic, because I just missed.
I don't have confidence that the Winter Park ordinance would solve this thing, because what the Purcells are doing, I do not believe is a protest. Okay, if you look at the wording, and I think you would have a hard time connecting the dots to make a case for protest. I believe in what they're doing, supportably. They're making a statement, and it would be no different than if they were standing on the side of the road saying, support, wearing your mask, and let's all fight COVID-19, right? So I support your right to do that. Now, with that said, there's a little onerous aspect to this thing, and I think it's about appealing to your sensibilities of being a good neighbor. Okay, I agree with your right to make those statements all day long, but I think it's obvious that it's affecting somebody, and whether there's animus there or whatever, I don't know, but it's just not being a good neighbor. So I would appeal to your sensibilities of being a good neighbor. I understand where there's harassment on both sides is what I see. I saw a pattern of behavior tonight where within 30 seconds I was threatened with being arrested for walking out of a meeting. I was also named to be a litigant in a lawsuit. So there are patterns of behavior on both sides here that I don't agree with and I don't like. So I think one of the biggest issues here is we don't have the tools in our toolbox to address this thing from the city. We don't have it in our ordinance. I looked at the ordinance cited by the city attorney, and I think part of it was it wasn't taken in its full context about a person being responsible for for noise. If you go back, I think you will find that the intent of that was for a supervisor or a worker operating a piece of machinery that's disturbing the peace. So I think your reference there wasn't in its full context here. Bottom line is that our contract says the police have the ability to use discretion in how they apply this stuff. So not only on the ordinance side, but also on the enforcement side, I don't think we had the existing tools to address this thing. So I agree with the city attorney, I agree with everybody else who's made the statement here. We just have to deal with this thing as adults here, and I appeal to your sensibilities, and if you have any good feelings for this city about being a good neighbor, about saving us money and being a good steward of the taxpayer's dollar, then please allow us to get back to meaningful city business and stop spending money on some of these frivolous issues that I think adults could work out between themselves. So that's kind of like my bottom line right there. I think if there are more complaints than just the onesies, twosies that I've heard about before this, such as 8 people, my question is, are those bona fide complaints to the city that have been made? Because
Absolutely. They went to City Hall, they've been not acted upon. I mean, again, I'm not going to give away all the details.
Okay, I'm not
You got the floor, go ahead.
I'm not going to go there any further.
Sorry for interrupting you, I shouldn't have done that.
I am disappointed in that this whole thing has degraded into a personal spat. I believe in the statements you're trying to say, but there's some onerous aspect to this thing, and I see it here in the animus and vitriol flying back and forth. So what I would say is, please be the adult here, and perhaps let's stand down or figure out a better place to do this, or there's something about not being a good neighbor here, and I don't think that's your intent. I hope it's not your intent. So let's perhaps all take a step back and take a look at it from a different perspective. So I think that's pretty much my point. It's not a protest. I don't see it as a protest. But I do agree with Mr. Malls. It's bordering on being a nuisance and a harassment. And we need to look at some other ways, but in the meantime, this thing could have a long, protracted timeline if we're trying to enact ordinances or take other kind of actions. Let's just take the high ground on both sides of this thing, and let us do some meaningful work for the city and save some money. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Rob, I'm going to come to you next. I wanted to say something. I'm going to speak to the council, but I'm going to look right at Mr. and Mrs. Purcell. I'm asking you,
We
okay?
can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this better? It's as close as I can get to it, okay? Okay. So, I'm asking you personally to listen to what everyone has said here. I think it's been unanimous in this room that everyone has said, enough is enough. No one is supporting what is happening in terms of 115 days in the same location, 60 feet from our bedroom window. You said you didn't know. Now you know. Okay? You know. So let's start fresh from tonight. We'll see what happens tomorrow morning. If this stops, or if this is a once-a-year thing, if it's a once-a-year thing, I'll come out there and hold the sign with you, I promise. Okay? But if it's going to be every day, then unfortunately the city has to act upon it, and then you also force me to act upon it personally along with Ms. Van Scoy and other people. Legally, of course. I don't want to do that. I am begging you, do not make me do that. Protesters, and I say protesters in general, not calling you that, there's a whole new area of law about protester liability. I'm speaking to you now. I know what you own. I know where your stuff is. You don't want to do this. Please. You're unlike a lot of the other protesters, you have assets.
Point of
Don't go
order.
down there.
I would
Yeah.
stop there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would stop there because, again, we're talking about this pattern of behavior where it's always a threat, whether it's overt or veiled or whatever. Let's stop it. You made your point, you made your appeal, so stop it there. You don't need to try to rationalize it. You're dealing with adults in this room.
Well,
You don't need
okay.
to pontificate. So
So let's all be reasonable, like
So-
Fred said, and I'm gonna interrupt you guys and
That's
take
good.
over this.
You have the
meeting.
floor, Robin. I'm
Thank
finished.
you, I need the floor right now. I agree with Glenn, I think reasonable is the best way. I disagree with the whole definition, maybe protest. I'm not a lawyer, but I've learned a lot of law since I've been on here, so, and I've watched a lot of Law and Order, so I'm an expert, right? Just like Dr. Google, you guys are all experts in medicine, so I could be an expert in law. But, you know, when you support the blue, it's the same as protesting mistreatment of police. When you hang out, like you said, your example of having a sign, wear your mask, protect us from COVID, you could say I'm protesting people that don't believe in science. So I think you could make an argument for protesting that way. I'm not a lawyer.
That's not the literal definition.
But I'm just saying, I'm not a lawyer, I'm just saying that it all depends on how many 5 paragraph, 1 sentences with 1,000 commas you write down in law. So I'm just saying. Bottom line is, I think this meeting, we're at the point where we're not gonna get anywhere. There's not gonna be a kumbaya moment. You're not gonna agree, you're not gonna agree. So I think we can maybe wrap this up and see where it goes from there. If activity doesn't stop, then I think maybe we need to look into ordinances, and we'll rely on Fred as our attorney for our city to guide us in the right direction.
To that point, we need a consensus. If this continues, then I certainly can give Fred a text. Fred, I'll come right back to you. I just need the consensus that if it continues, we're talking about, Winter Park is not the solution, Frisbee is, but I need to be able to say, Fred, do something. We can't sit here and be talking about this another month, another 60 days from now, so we could have 175 days of this. So, go ahead, Fred.
Well, I'm gonna I don't want to speak in front of council members, so go ahead.
The only thing I have to say at this point, if the city is forced to do this, we'll have to. And that's a crime right there. It's a tremendous amount of wasted effort, but if we have to, we have to. Fred?
Give you a path forward from my perspective. You have a special meeting in 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks, if there has not been a amicable resolution that's occurred, then in 2 weeks, it should be on the agenda for you to give me direction to take action. Okay, and I will tag on to that. I've listened to this discussion this evening. In some ways, this is one of the tools that you, in the toolkit that you did have, is that you had the ability to have this as a workshop item that you've discussed as a council, and then citizens have given their perspective on things too. I will say something about a common problem with test of wills. Tests of wills usually result in no one being happy. And I again will go back to my line that I'm going to use over and over again. Reasonable people of goodwill will find a reasonable solution to a problem. And from my perspective, that's as far as you can get with this topic tonight. And let my suggestions, give it 2 weeks, have it be on the agenda, and hopefully reasonable people, especially at Christmas time, will find a way to find it in their heart to get an amicable resolution all the way around.
So, so we have consensus that we'll move this forward to a work session. Let's schedule it. I will pull it down if things stop. And I will say this publicly, if things stop, we will never talk again about this. No hard feelings. It's Christmas time. Bury the hatchet. There's no hatchet to bury because I never had a problem to begin with, but no, if you have no problem, I have no problem. I will be totally happy. And I think everybody in the neighborhood will be. So that's my offer, and I mean that. I'm saying it publicly. So with that, are we ready to adjourn?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, then we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.